What's good, everybody? It's your boy Kyle.
What's up? I'm Joy.
And we are the Birds. And in this week, we are talking about
conversations you should have before getting married.
BirdCast.
Let's go.
This week, we are talking about conversations you should have before you get married. And as always, my beautiful wife, aka the Stat Queen, has got some beautiful stats for us to partake in on this week. Read.
So, licensed marriage and family therapist Rebecca Hendricks believes there are 5 conversations you should have before getting married. Those 5 conversations are having and raising kids, money in your careers, religion and values, how you handle your fights, and deal breakers and bucket lists.
I think those conversations definitely need to be had before jumping into any type of relationship, especially if you're looking for a longer term relationship.
These conversations are important, and I think the main thing to know is that it's okay to disagree. Just because you're having this conversation, you may not see eye to eye on every single thing, but at least you know where your partner stands.
Absolutely.
I think it's more than just talking about a desire to have kids. It's talking about what if you can't have kids? What are your options? Are you open to adoption? Are you open to other treatment options? Like really trying to get your partner's perspective on starting a family.
This particular subject is something that we both did want, but we did not talk about. And I think that's something that we should have talked about before we got married. I think with the particular family dynamic that we both have, we both have a lot of siblings.
Yeah, it probably was just assumed that it was something we both wanted.
Yeah, even though it should not have been an assumption.
Right.
It was an assumption on our part that we both desired children.
Right.
And I think it's an important conversation to have, because you never know, you might get into a relationship with someone who does not want children at all, which that's their prerogative.
Right.
But it is an important conversation to have.
Your morals and your faith, they are going to affect how you make decisions for your family. And if you and your spouse are not on the same page when it comes to that, that could cause some, tension in your home.
Everything needs to be done together. I think when you come into a relationship, especially when you come into marriage, you're so used to doing, kind of like we talked about last week, you're so used to doing everything one particular way that you don't necessarily feel like you have to take the necessary step to make sure that the other person that you're with is really equally yoked with your intentions, period. Whether it be religious beliefs or any other type of belief. Really, right. That can go across the whole board.
How important do you think that is to be equally yoked with your partner?
I think it's very important to be equally yoked.
And what does that mean,
To be equally yoked, to me, in my opinion, means that we are all on the same page. We believe the same thing. Because if we believe the same thing and we believe in the same thing, I think believing the same thing is one thing, but believing in something is completely different.
It was somebody who was commenting on your stuff and you're like, this is my guy right here. Like, this is just like a really good guy. And y'all was like kind of commenting back and forth. Mm-hmm. And I just shut down. And I was like, I don't like him. He was just like,
oh, you told that story.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't like him. And he was like, why don't you like him? And I was like, I don't like him. I don't. And I got so upset. And I at first I didn't even know what I was so upset about. I was like, I just don't. And you was almost taking his side a little bit. This is a good dude. You don't have a reason to not like him. And I had to tell you about my past in that moment. I'm like, this guy, from the time I was a sophomore in high school to the time I was a junior in high school, he made fun of me every single day during PE. He made fun of my clothes. He made fun of me being overweight. He teased me every single day. And I didn't know that I still had that inward feeling. But just to see you like saucing him up like that, like it made me so upset. And then I had to think back, this is why I'm upset. I'm like, he was so mean to me in high school, and I had to get to the point where I had to let that go. I'm like, that was high school, you know?
Yeah.
It's not present day. But when you never deal with anything, it just kind of sits there. You know, you try to move past it, but if you don't address it, it's just going to sit there. And if you let it, it'll turn into you being bitter. And for years, I think I wasn't necessarily bitter, but I was so quiet and I was so reserved and I was so untrusting of everybody for how I was treated back years ago, not realizing that those years had come and gone, and it was a new day and I was a new person and I was dealing with new things, but I was still reacting in the old way.
But it took me a minute to kind of like readjust, because I mean, first of all, you my wife, and even though that happened while you were in high school, it was still like, yo, that's you still are wrong for that. But at the same time, it wasn't fair. I don't believe it was fair for me to like judge him based on what he did in high school, because there's stuff I did in high school that
exactly
God knows I don't want to be judged about.
Right.
So I'm like, you know what?
Not just high school, in life. It's things.
Life.
And that was my biggest thing. You know, I cannot call myself a Christian and not forgive somebody who's done something to me. But when I mess up, I want God to forgive me.
We actually had that conversation where we've talked to each other and been like, listen, these are some of the things that I want to do in my life, and I would be remiss if I didn't at least tell you this is what I want to do, and you have the opportunity to either help or support me. Because I'm gonna tell you something, and as a husband and as a man, there is absolutely no other feeling than telling my wife this is what I want to do, and she's saying, baby, I got your back. That support from her meant everything in the world to me, and it really didn't matter if I got rejected by a whole bunch of other people. As long as she got my back and the things that I desire to do, as long as they, you know, are right in what they're in the goals that you're trying to do, there's no greater feeling than having the support of your significant other.
Absolutely.